We've all heard that a cult can turn someone into a fanatic, but just how far would one go? Hey, welcome to the Story Spiral. Today we're diving into the case of Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell. This is without question one of the most jaw-dropping modern cases involving a Doomsday Cult. 5 suspicious deaths, 2 children gone missing, and a whole lot of unanswered questions. So buckle up, this one is going to be intense. Without wasting any more time, let's get into the twisted tale of Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell. Our story begins in San Bernardino, California. Lori Noreen Cox was born on June 26, 1973, to parents Barry and Janice Cox. She had 2 older brothers, Alex and Adam, and 3 sisters, Stacy, Laura, and Summer. Her childhood was mostly ordinary, but given the direction her life would later take, that's probably where the normalcy ended. At 19, Lori married her high school sweetheart, Nelson Yanes. The honeymoon phase faded fast, and the pair divorced a year later. In 1995, she remarried, this time to William LaGioia. They welcomed a son, Colby Ryan, but once again, the marriage didn't last. By 1998, Lori was divorced for the second time. Fast forward to 2001, and she was tying a knot for a third time, this time with Joseph Ryan. Their daughter, Tylee Ryan, was born on September 24th, 2002, but history repeated itself. By 2004, the couple divorced, and this time, things got ugly. Lori claimed Joseph had been abusive, and her brother Alex took matters into his own hands, attacking Joseph with a taser and threatening his life. For that, Alex served 90 days in jail and received 5 years of probation. I wanted to lay out Lori's early history to show a consistent pattern in her relationships. She was charming and attractive. Many people said she had a magnetic personality, but she also had a restless spirit and often seemed unsatisfied. That dissatisfaction usually became someone else's problem. By 2005, Lori was on her own again. She was no longer with Joseph, and though she had 2 children, she primarily cared for Tylee. That year, she met Charles Vallow. Charles was dependable and driven, a family man through and through. He was born on August 17, 1956, in Arizona, and when he met Lori at 49, he was still full of energy and charisma. Not long after meeting, they married on February 24th, 2006. Charles had 2 sons from a previous marriage, Nicholas and Zachary. Lori brought Colby and Tylee into the mix, and together they formed a blended family. Charles, a successful businessman, provided financial stability, while Lori took on more of a homemaking role. But the household dynamics were unusual. During summer breaks, Charles's sons would stay at the house while Charles himself traveled for work. Lori, meanwhile, would often spend time with her own family or friends, meaning the kids were frequently left alone. In 2014, Charles and Lori adopted Charles's grandnephew, Joshua Jackson Vallow, better known as JJ. By that point, Colby, Nicholas, and Zachary had moved out, so the household included Lori, Charles, Tylee, and little JJ. Later that year, the family decided to make a big change. They relocated to Princeville, Kauai, in Hawaii, and started a juice bar called Juice Island. While the setting was idyllic, the business flopped, and after 2 years, the Vallows moved back to Arizona in 2016. Here's where the story takes a dark turn. Back in 2015, while in Hawaii, Lori discovered a book series titled Standing in Holy Places. Already a devout Mormon, Lori became obsessed with the apocalyptic themes in the books. The author? A man named Chad Daybell, someone she would soon meet in person. Once back in Arizona, Lori's religious fervor intensified. In October 2018, she attended a religious seminar called Preparing a People with her friend Melanie Gibb. That's where she was introduced to Chad Daybell, and her life spiraled into something terrifying. According to Melanie, Chad told Lori that they had been married in 7 past lifetimes. They began talking frequently, and before long, their bond deepened, emotionally, spiritually, and romantically. When Charles was away on a business trip, Lori invited Chad over, not alone, but with Melanie and some of his followers. The group spent the evening discussing divine mysteries, but Chad only had eyes for Lori, and by the end of the night, It was clear she was the new center of his universe. So who exactly was Chad Daybell? Born on August 11, 1968, in Provo, Utah, Chad married his wife Tammy Young and earned a journalism degree from Brigham Young University in 1992. He worked for a time as a cemetery gravedigger before launching Spring Creek Books in 2004. He and Tammy had 5 children, and Chad went on to publish over 25 books, many of which explored the end times, near-death experiences, and visions from God. Eventually, Chad moved his family to Rexburg, Idaho, claiming that God had instructed him to do so. He began labeling people as light or dark, depending on their spiritual alignment. Those he deemed dark were, in his view, followers of Satan. During that first night with Lori, Chad told her she was an eternal being who had lived 21 lives, 5 on Earth, the same number he claimed for himself. Lori was ecstatic. She believed every word. Soon after, Chad emailed her a spiritual ranking chart, classifying people, including Lori's own children, as either light or dark. By 2019, Lori's obsession had grown to dangerous levels. She withdrew from everyday life, consumed by the belief that she was destined to lead 144,000 chosen followers in the end times. She started calling people she thought were dark zombies. This included, heartbreakingly, her own children. Charles grew more and more concerned. Their marriage had crumbled, and arguments were constant. On January 31st, 2019, Charles returned from a business trip and couldn't reach Lori or the kids. When he arrived at the airport, he discovered his truck was gone, and Lori was unresponsive. And then, people started disappearing. JJ enrolled in school shortly after their move to Rexburg, and things seemed normal. He was seen playing outside with friends on September 17th. A neighbor's doorbell camera even captured him running inside. But on September 23rd, Lori abruptly unenrolled him from school, claiming she would homeschool him. That was the last anyone ever saw of JJ. Meanwhile, Tylee had vanished too. Her last confirmed sighting was on a family trip to Yellowstone in early September. After that, any contact she had was brief and impersonal. Text messages that lacked any emotional tone. Lori repeatedly brushed off concerns, offering vague excuses like they're staying with friends or visiting family. No one had seen the kids in weeks. Around this time, 2 chilling things occurred. First, Lori began renting a storage unit in Rexburg. Surveillance footage captured her stashing children's items, bikes, blankets, and more into the unit. Chad and her brother Alex joined her in several of these visits, going back multiple times through October and November. Second, on October 9th, Chad's wife Tammy was confronted in her driveway by a masked man with what appeared to be a paintball gun. He fired at her but ran when she screamed. Tammy later posted about the bizarre incident online, warning others to stay alert. But 10 days later, Tammy was dead. Chad told authorities she died in her sleep. When asked if they could perform an autopsy, he declined. Despite the strange circumstances, no further investigation was done at the time. So let's take stock. Lori's husband was dead. Her kids were missing. Chad's wife had suddenly died. Suspicious yet? 2 weeks later, Chad and Lori flew to Hawaii and got married. Yes, really. By now, suspicions were piling up. Authorities began monitoring them. The couple started lying to friends and acquaintances. Chad even claimed Lori had no children. Lori, meanwhile, told someone that Tylee had died years prior. On November 26, police conducted a welfare check on JJ. Lori claimed he was with her friend Melanie in Arizona. But when police followed up, Melanie was confused. She hadn't seen JJ in weeks. She also revealed that Lori and Chad had just called her and asked her to lie to cover for them. The very next day, police returned to Lori's house with a search warrant. But Lori and Chad had fled to Hawaii. In December, Lori's brother Alex mysteriously died, supposedly of natural causes. Authorities gave Lori 5 days to produce her children. She didn't. On February 20th, 2020, she was arrested in Hawaii and extradited to Idaho. Still, the central mystery remained. Where were the kids? It wasn't until June 9, 2020, that the nightmare finally revealed itself. Police executed a search warrant at Chad's Idaho property. Just hours in, they uncovered human remains buried near a red barn. Days later, DNA confirmed the worst. It was JJ and Tylee. JJ's grandparents shared their devastation. We are filled with unimaginable grief. We just pray they didn't suffer. Chad tried to flee, but was arrested shortly after. He was charged with felony concealment and destruction of evidence. As of today, both Lori and Chad remain in custody. Murder charges are expected. Alex, had he lived, would likely be facing charges as well. GPS data showed him at both Lori's house and Chad's property during the times the children vanished. Multiple witnesses came forward saying Lori described JJ and Tylee as zombies. In the twisted belief system she adopted with Chad, death was the only solution. To me, the writing's on the wall. This case is a devastating example of how unchecked delusion, when shared and fed between two people, can lead to absolute tragedy. When monsters find each other, destruction follows. In 2023, after the remains of JJ and Tylee were discovered, the public scrutiny intensified. Both Lori and Chad faced numerous charges, including first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and child abandonment. The case drew global attention, particularly due to the couple's doomsday beliefs, which seemed to have been a driving force behind the deaths. Lori and Chad's legal teams repeatedly filed motions to delay the trial, citing the need for mental health evaluations and other procedural issues. Throughout 2021 and 2022, the couple's court dates were postponed multiple times. In 2023, Lori's mental state came under intense examination, as her defense attorneys claimed that she was not fit to stand trial. However, experts disagreed, stating that Lori appeared to understand the gravity of her actions. Meanwhile, Chad's defense focused on his role as a spiritual leader and attempted to argue that his actions were influenced by his faith. Both cases became a spectacle, drawing in true crime enthusiasts, journalists, and even experts on cult behavior. In early 2024, the trial for both Lori and Chad Daybell finally began. The courtroom was filled with raw emotion as the prosecution laid out the details of the case, including the chilling messages from Chad's spiritual ranking charts and a belief system that led to the deaths of two innocent children. Throughout the trial, Lori and Chad continued to maintain their innocence, but their stories faltered under cross-examination. Revelations about the twisted beliefs they had shared, their plans to lead to 144,000 chosen ones, and their actions leading up to the children's deaths shocked the nation. In 2025, the court finally delivered its verdict. Lori Vallow was convicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder, along with charges of conspiracy, child abandonment, and felony theft. Chad Daybell faced the same charges and was convicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder and other related crimes. The case was one of the most bizarre, tragic, and eye-opening in modern history. It served as a stark warning about the dangers of fanaticism and the depths to which people can fall when they become trapped in destructive belief systems. For the families and the loved ones of JJ and Tylee, justice had finally been served, but no verdict could ever bring back the children who were so cruelly taken from this world. As of today, Lori and Chad are both serving life sentences. Their names are now forever associated with a story that captivated the world, a cautionary tale about the darkness that can emerge when delusion takes root.